Hello and welcome to the UPSC Mains PYQ series by Shikra Academy. In this series, we are discussing all the previous year GS Mains questions asked by UPSC over the past years. Now, in today's session, we will be discussing the 2023 GS Paper 2 and we will be discussing 5 questions, that is question number 6 to question number 10. So, these questions will be discussed in today's session, live session. Starting with question number 6, first question of the day, that is 2023 General Studies Paper 2, question number 6. The crucial aspect of development process has been the inadequate attention paid to human resource development in India. So this is the introductory statement. Okay, in introductory statement, we are given a statement in the question, and we have to suggest measures that can address this inadequacy. Now it is a 10-mark question that we have to answer in 150 words. And it is asking us to give suggestions or to give measures how we can overcome the inadequacy of the human resource development in the country. Mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of social justice, and the topic here is issues relating to development and management of social sector services relating to the human resources. So that is the syllabus from which it has been asked. Now, the approach that we'll be taking in answering such a question is that in introduction, we will be describing the human resource development in India. What's the status, what's the scope of human resource development in the country? Then in body, we address the demand of the question by highlighting the inadequacies that the question is talking about. And then we provide the measures to address this inadequacy in the human resource development. Then in conclusion, we will be summarizing the answer and give a way forward. Starting with the introduction, the human resource development is the backbone of sustainable development as it links education, skills, health, and productivity. So these four are the pillars of the human resource development, that is education, skills, health, and productivity. In India, despite the rapid growth, so we have achieved rapid economic growth, especially after the 1990s, the reforms of the 1991. But there has been inadequate attention that is given to the human resource development, which has created gaps in employability, the skill development, and social equity, overall social equity. Now, in body, we have to highlight the inadequacies. Now, just note one thing, that the question is not asking us directly. Explicitly, the question is not asking us to write down the inadequacies. But the introductory statement of the question is talking about certain inadequate action. So here they are briefly highlighting the inadequacies. So we have to also mention these inadequacies in our answer. So first inadequacy is the education gap. There has been poor learning outcomes, high dropout rates from schools and higher education, as well as a digital divide in the population. Then there are skill mismatch. There has been vocational and technical skills are lagging behind the industry demand. Okay. So there is a demand, there's a mismatch of the demand and supply for these skills. Then there are health challenges. There is malnutrition in the population, especially among the children and young people. There is poor public health infrastructure and high out-of-pocket expenditure on the health. So there is on health, there is a very high out-of-pocket expenditure for the common man. Then there is gender disparity. There is lower female workforce participation, and in females there are literacy levels in females, and the skills level of the females are also low. Then there are unequal access. There is rural urban as well as regional disparities. There is a rural urban divide in the human resource development, and there are regional disparities in the HRD or this human resource development indicators. Indicators like education, health, skills, and productivity. Now, what measures can we undertake in order to overcome or in order to address these inadequacies that we have in education, in skills, in health, in gender disparity, and unequal access? So first is there are education reforms. We have to strengthen the implementation of National Education Policy 2020, as it this National Education Policy NEP 2020 is focusing on foundational literacy and digital literacy both. So it is focusing on foundational literacy as well as digital literacy in order to bridge the digital divide. Then in order to overcome the skill mismatch, there needs to be there is a need to enhance the skill development. We have to expand the Skill India program as well as the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana with industry linkages and an apprenticeship program. Then for healthcare, we have to increase the investment. We have to strengthen the Ayushman Bharat so that the out-of-pocket expenditure of the on the health for the common people comes down. We have to focus on primary healthcare, strengthening the primary healthcare infrastructure as well as in the nutrition programs in order to overcome the malnutrition in the population. Then we have to focus on women empowerment. We have to promote women education, promote women safety, particularly in the cities, as well as workforce participation for women through targeted schemes. Then, in order to overcome the regional disparity, there need to be a special focus on the HRD initiatives for backward states as well as the rural areas. So, with these uh, addresses or with these measures, we can address the issue of the inadequacies in the human resource development. Now, in conclusion, we can summarize the answer. So we can write two lines. First line, the summarizing line, and the second line is the forward-looking line. So in the summarizing line, we can write that strengthening HRD requires an integrated approach, that is quality education, robust health systems, and an inclusive skill development. Only then can India realize its demographic dividend and achieve the equitable development. Now, whenever we are talking about the human resource development in the Indian for India's perspective, it is important to highlight that we currently have a demographic dividend. Now, this demographic dividend becomes a key word or a key phrase in your answer. Moving on to the next question, that is question number 7. Discuss the role of Competition Commission of India in containing the abuse of dominant position by the multinational corporations in India. And we have to refer to the recent decisions in order to enhance our answer. So it is a 10-mark question. We have to answer it in 150 words. Mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of governance, and the topic is important aspects of governance, transparency, and accountability. Seeing the approach for the question, in introduction, we have to describe the Competition Commission of India, like what kind of body it is, what it pertains to do. Then the role of Competition Commission of India in India, the role significance of CCI, and the recent decisions taken by the CCI in order to stop or in order to prevent the abuse of dominant position by these multinational corporations. So we have to give two or three such examples of recent decisions taken by the Competition Commission of India. Starting with the introduction, the Competition Commission of India was established under the Competition Act of 2002. So it is a statutory body. And it is tasked with preventing the anti-competitive practices and ensuring the fair competition in the private or the corporate sector. In recent years, the Competition Commission of India has actively checked the abuse of dominance by the multinational corporations that are operating in India. So this is our connecting line through which we are connecting the introduction of the question with the body of the introduction of the answer with the body of the answer. Now, writing the body, first we have to describe the role of the Competition Commission of India. So, its first or foremost role is preventing the abuse of dominance. So, the Competition Commission of India investigates the cases where these large multinational corporations or the large corporate houses they exploit market power through their unfair pricing, restrictive contracts, as well as entry barriers. So, for the young enterprises, for the smaller enterprises, there are many entry barriers in any industry. This Competition Commission of India ensures that the large corporations, these large multinational companies or the large corporate houses, they are not using unfair pricing in order to create more entry barriers for the upcoming startups. Then its second function is that it promotes the consumer welfare. By ensuring a limit on the unfair pricing, it ensures the fair prices, the choices for the customers, and innovation for the consumers. Then it provides a level playing field. So it protects the domestic firms from the predatory pricing and monopolistic practices of these global giants. So it has three major roles. First is that preventing abuse of dominance. Second, promoting consumer welfare. Third is the level providing a level playing field for all the type of private enterprises in the country. Then we have to highlight the recent decisions. That is, we can talk about the uh, the Google case of 2020, 22-23, in which the Competition Commission of India imposed penalties over rupees 2,200 crores on Google for abusing its Android operating system as well as the Play Store policies. Then is the case of Amazon Flipkart, with in which the CCI investigated for exclusive agreements with smartphone brands and preferential treatment to select sellers. And finally, we can write about the Intel case of 2019, in which the Competition Commission of India directed to seize the unfair rebate policies by the Intel company that restricted the competition in the overall CPU market or the chips market in the country. Then, in conclusion, we can summarize the answer and also provide a way forward by writing that the Competition Commission of India plays a crucial role in maintaining the market power of the MNCs and ensuring the competitive neutrality. Okay, so it ensures the market power and the competitive neutrality. However, the strong enforcement capacity and a faster adjudication are needed to safeguard India's digital and economic future. Okay, so this is the way forward, that the CCI needs stronger enforcement capacity as well as faster adjudication of the cases, and this overall will also improve the ease of doing business ranking in the country. Then moving on to the next question, that is question number 8. It is a question on e-governance. So e-governance as a critical tool of governance has assured in effectiveness, transparency, and accountability in the government. So this is the introductory statement. No question is Nothing has been asked till now. Now the question is asking what inadequacies hamper the enhancement of these features. Now we have to write about the inadequacies that we are facing in adoption of the e-governance in the country. So it is a 10-mark question that we have to answer in 150 words. Mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of governance, and the topic of here discussion is the e-governance. And it is asking us to highlight the limitations or the inadequacies. The approach that we'll be taking in answering such a question is that in introduction, we will be describing the e-governance concept in India. And in body, we write about the inadequacies which are hampering the enhancement of e-governance in the country, because that is the demand of the question. And in conclusion, we write a way forward. We have to give suggestions. We have to provide a recommendations in the answer in the conclusion, because in body we are only highlighting the inadequacies. So starting with the introduction, we can write that e-governance has emerged a key tool for promoting efficiency, transparency, and accountability in governance. Now, this is the introductory statement. So whenever an introductory statement is given in a question, we have to deal with that introductory statement in the introduction of the answer itself. Then, though initiatives like the Digital India, Aadhaar, RTI portals, the online grievance redressal system, it has enhanced in the citizen participation and reduced the bureaucratic delays. So its role is that um, several initiatives in India have been launched in order to enhance the e-governance. For example, Digital India, the Aadhaar ecosystem, the RTI portals, the online grievance redressal systems, the direct bank transfer also is a part of the e-governance. So all these systems, they have enhanced the citizen participation and has reduced the bureaucratic delays as well as the bureaucratic load. Now we have to write the body of the answer. So we have to write the inadequacies in hampering the enhancement. Now, why we are not able to enhance the e-governance, or we are not able to enhance the adoption of e-governance in the country? We have to give the inadequacies, the reasons behind that. So the number one reason is the digital divide. There is unequal access to the internet, particularly in rural and remote areas, which limits the overall inclusivity of in the digital space. Then there is low digital literacy. Citizens and many government officials, they lack necessary skills to use digital platforms effectively. Okay, so in the citizens as well as the certain government officials, they do not have the necessary required digital skills to use these digital platforms very effectively. Thirdly, there are infrastructure gaps. There are there is an issue of poor broadband connectivity, unreliable electricity, and lack of digital infrastructure in which is a constraint to the overall progress in adoption of the e-governance. Then there are cyber security concerns, issues like the data breaches, privacy risk, weak cybersecurity frameworks reduce the trust in the overall e-platforms and the e-governance. Then there is resistance to change. Any change the government tries to introduce in or government plans to introduce in the country, it is met with certain resistance from certain sections of the population. And because the overall population in India is not that much tech savvy, or we have a digital divide, so this resistance gets even more amplified. So there is bureaucratic inertia. The first inertia comes from the bureaucracy itself, and their lack of training hinder the smooth adoption of these digital tools. Then there are fragmentation of platforms. So there is a lack of interoperability between state and central system. So state governments has its own apparatus of e-governance. The central government, it has its own apparatus of e-governance. So there is a lack of interoperability between these systems, between the state government as well as the central government, which leads to duplication of effort as well as inefficiency. Now, in conclusion, we have to provide suggestions or we have to give the recommendations a way forward that how we can overcome these inadequacies in order to enhance the adoption of e-governance in the country. So we can write, while e-governance has transformed service delivery, addressing issues of digital access, security, and capacity building is essential for realizing its full potential in deepening transparency as well as accountability in India's governance. So what we need to do, we need to enhance the digital access. We have to address the issue of enhancing digital access, the digital security, as well as the overall capacity building. Moving on to the next question, that is question number 9. The virus of conflict is affecting the functioning of SEO. So this is the statement given. And in the light of this statement, of this above statement, we have to point out the role of India in mitigating the problems. So we have to highlight the problems of in this SEO as an organization, and we have to highlight the role of India, that how India is mitigating all the problems that are inherent in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, that is the SCO. So it is a 10-mark question that we have to answer in 150 words. Mapping it with this syllabus, we can see that it has been asked on the subject of international relations, and the topic is the bilateral, regional, and global grouping. So SCO we know is a regional grouping and agreements involving India. So it is a regional grouping involving India, that is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or the SCO. So the approach that we'll be taking in answering such a question is that in introduction we describe the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We write about we write in brief about this SCO. Then in body we address the demand of question by writing the India's role in mitigating the problems associated with the SCO, and then in conclusion we summarize the answer. So starting with the introduction, we can write the Shanghai Cooperation Organization was established to promote the regional stability, security, as well as the economic cooperation in the Eurasian region. However, the internal differences among members, like the border disputes, for example, border dispute between India, China, border dispute between India and Pakistan, the geopolitical rivalries, the rivalry between India, Pakistan, rivalry between Russia and China, rivalry between India and China. So these geopolitical rivalries and the divergent strategic interest in the region have been termed as the virus of conflict that is hampering the effectiveness of this Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a bloc. Then we have to write in the body about India's role in mitigating the problems that are associated with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So first is the promoting dialogue and peaceful coexistence. India advocates for respect of sovereignty as well as territorial integrity. These two are the hallmarks of our foreign policy, that we respect the sovereignty as well as the territorial integrity of the other countries, and that is required to counter the hegemonic tendencies. So there is a so there should be peaceful coexistence. There should not be any hegemony in this Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Then India is trying to balance the power rivalries in the region between Russia and China, especially because these two are the biggest powers in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So India plays a neutral role amid tensions between China, Russia, West, as well as India and Pakistan disputes within the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Then there is counterterrorism cooperation. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO, has a regional anti-terrorist structure, that is the RATS, which is a specialized body inside the organization that is aimed towards combating the cross-border terrorism. So India actively participates in the RATS to combat the cross-border terrorism, especially which is coming up from emanating from the Pakistan. Then there is connectivity with inclusivity. India supports the connectivity projects that are transparent and that respect the national sovereignty and opposing the coercive initiatives like the BRI. So we are open to the such connectivity projects in the region which are transparent, okay, and which respect the national issues and the national sovereignty of the other countries or the other members. Unlike the projects like the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, whose part, that is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, violates our own territorial integrity. Then there are energy and economic engagement. India strengthens the cooperation in the energy for energy security, trade, and digital economy in the grouping, offering an alternative development method. Finally, there is India plays an active role in the cultural diplomacy. So India promotes its civilization linkages and people to people contacts and fostering the trust among these member states. Okay, so these member states are marred by their own conflicts. So with the cultural diplomacy or the cultural reach, India is trying to foster trust among these members of the SCO. So in conclusion, we can summarize the answer by writing that India's constructive approach. So India has a constructive approach in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which this constructive approach emphasizes peace, development, and sovereignty. This makes it so that this makes India a crucial actor in mitigating conflicts within the SCO. India's balanced stance can help this grouping, that is the SCO, realize its goal for regional stability and cooperation. So the regional stability as well as cooperation are the two goals or the two fundamental objectives of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Moving on to the final question, that is question number 10. Indian diaspora has scaled new heights in the West. So this is an statement that is given in the question. Now we have to describe its economic as well as political benefits for India. What political benefits and economic benefits? That the achievements of Indian diaspora, particularly in the West. So we have to take the countries of the West, particularly the Western Europe, the developed world, the North America, especially US and Canada, into account when we are writing this answer. We will not be including the Southeast Asia as well as the West Asia region when we are writing this answer, because this answer is particularly, the question is particularly talking about the Indian diaspora, the heights it has scaled in the Western world, in the West. So mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of international relations and the topic is Indian diaspora. It is a 10-mark question that we have to answer in 150 words. Now seeing the approach, so we will be describing the Indian diaspora in introduction. In introduction, we will be describing the Indian diaspora, and please note that there are three regions in the world, particularly the Western bloc, the West Asia, as well as the Southeast Asia, in which we have a very large Indian diaspora. The population of Indians, people of Indian origin, are very much high in these regions, and in the Western countries, we have climbed up the economic as well as the political ladder, um, and in the West Asia, and that goes similarly for the Southeast Asia as well. Okay, but in the Western Asia, in the West Asia, the population that is just migrating there, that is more inclined towards the blue collar jobs. Okay, then we have to write the economic benefits as well as the political benefits that are coming out of rise in Indian diaspora. The heights that the Indian diaspora has achieved in the West. So, what are the economic benefits of that rise for India as well as the political benefits for India that is associated with the rise of Indian diaspora in the Western world? Then, in conclusion, we have to summarize the answer. So, starting with the introduction, the Indian diaspora, particularly in the United States, Canada, and UK and Europe, because we are talking about the Western world. The question is talking about the West. So the Indian diaspora has emerged a significant force in the global politics and economy. Their achievements, the Indian diaspora achievements in business, in technology, in medicine, and governance have elevated India's soft power and strategic influence. So in business as well as technology, so we can see that these S&P 500 companies, the large American corporations, the tech giants, they have the Indian CEOs, the Indian people of the Indian diaspora are working as CEO and high position officials there in these companies. And in governance also, uh, the Indian diaspora is playing an active role. We can see in the Trump administration itself, and we can take the example of Rishi Sunak, who was the previous Prime Minister of the UK. We can take example of Kamala Harris, who has been the previous Vice President of USA, and we have many of the Indian diaspora people elected into the Parliament into the British Parliament, into the Canadian Parliament, as well as in the American Congress. So, what does this rise of Indian diaspora in the Western world? What economic benefits it has for India, and what political benefits it has for India that we'll be discussing in the body. So, first is the remittances. So, India receives the highest global remittances in the world, over 100 billion annually, and a large share of it comes from the West, which contributes to our thriving foreign exchange reserves. Then there is investment and trade. So the diaspora professionals, the professionals that are part of the Indian diaspora, they fosters the foreign direct investment, the startups and trade partnerships, linking the Silicon Valley, the Wall Street and European markets with India. Then there is knowledge transfer. So skilled migrants in the IT sector, in healthcare sector and academia, it contribute to India's technological as well as research ecosystem through collaborations. Then there are tourism and cultural industries. So diaspora engagement boosts the cultural exports, our soft power, the yoga, Ayurveda, as well as Indian cuisine worldwide. They also, for in the trade aspect, they also increases the demand for Indian goods in their respective countries that they are inhabiting. So suppose a large chunk of Indian population is living in the United States. So now in the United States, they generate the demand for Indian goods that enhances our further exports and trade. Then there are political benefits also associated with the influence in policy making. So the diaspora communities that we have, they lobby these Western governments for pro-India policies. And this was evident during we have to give the example of the India-US nuclear deal that was signed in the year 2008. Then we have to talk about the strengthening of bilateral ties. So prominent leaders of Indian origin in the West, they act as bridges of trust in the international diplomacy. We can give the example of Rishi Sunak here. We can give the example of Kamala Harris here. Then there is soft power diplomacy. The diaspora-led cultural events like the International Day of Yoga enhances India's global image. So these are the potential as well as economic benefits that are associated with the rise of Indian diaspora in the Western world. Then in conclusion, we can just write a summarizing line that the Indian diaspora is not just an economic asset, but also a strategic diplomatic partner, which is advancing India's interest into the global arena. Now, the PDF of these model answers will be available to you